This is a plot review and trivia for the movie Batman Forever in under 9 minutes. I am Dr. Gwargle, and let's begin. This film contains none of the things that we might associate with Batman today. Released in 1995, 3 years after Batman Returns, which has its own set of issues. It's technically a follow-up sequel, although neither the director nor Batman return. This movie has Val Kilmer as Batman, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Nicole Kidman as Chase Meridian, or Meridian Chase, I don't know, and Chris O'Donnell as Robin. It was directed by Joel Schumacher and written by Lee Batchelor and Janet Scott Batchelor, who are kind of randoms, but more on that later. Alright, let's get to the plot. Start off the movie, we get to see Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, where we can see that he's really giving it his all. He's still 2 years away from Men in Black, but, I mean, he's struggling out there. It's tough. Anyways, Batman meets Nicole Kidman and goes and stops Two-Face, and that's basically it. Two-Face just gets away, because that's the type of movie it is. Just off the bat, they got away from the Tim Burton Batman immediately and went back to like the 60s Adam West Batman. It's extremely comic booky. We quickly cut to Jim Carrey, who really steals the show here. I mean, it's peak Jim Carrey. Look at his resume at the time. He's a scientist working on brainwaves at Wayman Enterprises, and he approaches Bruce Wayne, and Bruce tells him that he won't fund such a project. Jim Carrey, whose character's name is Edward, but I'm just gonna keep calling him the Riddler or Jim Carrey, is obsessed with Bruce Wayne and is completely crestfallen when Bruce says no to his project, and that starts his villain arc. So Jim Carrey does a little dance, and he kills his supervisor, and then he starts leaving riddles for Bruce Wayne to find. One of the side plots to this movie is a love triangle between Nicole Kidman, Bruce, and Batman. Nicole Kidman is obsessed with Batman, but then gets to know Bruce, and he knows that she loves Batman and is spending time with Batman on the side, but it's the same guy, because they're the same person, but Bruce is just like fine with it. It's really weird, and eventually she just falls in love with Bruce Wayne and finds out that he's Batman, and it's all kosher, whatever, I don't know. Anywho, Bruce Wayne takes Nicole Kidman to the circus, and they're having a good time, but then Two-Face shows up with all his goons, and Bruce Wayne has to jump into action and be an action hero. He's helped by one of the trapeze artists in the circus, who are like a family unit, and so there's like 4 of them, and one of them goes to help and throw out the bomb that Two-Face got, and the other 3 get like dropped off the ledge by Two-Face, and they all die, they all eat it. And then there's just like one kid left, basically. Except he's not really a kid. He's like 26 and has an earring, and it's like, alright. But anyway, now that this kid's orphaned, or adult, I mean, he's a young adult, whatever, Bruce Wayne adopts him and says that he's going to be his ward. So Dick Grayson, the orphaned guy who was adopted as like a full-grown adult and made to be his ward, begrudgingly stays, basically. Like an hour in, our villains finally meet, and Jim Carrey's in the full Riddler suit, and it's a really great scene with Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey interacting with each other, because Tommy Lee Jones actually hated Jim Carrey, but more on that later. So Dick Grayson goes wandering around the house, finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, steals the Batmobile, and then pulls up to a random street corner and gets approached by the R&B and soul group En Vogue. After a fight scene, we cut away from that, and then we find out that Jim Carrey's become the new socialite of Gotham, and he's invented this technology that basically is just a cable box that goes onto your TV, and it just sucks your brainwaves out. Like, it shows it happening, like literally the brainwaves getting sucked out of people's heads, and they're still just like doing it, but whatever. Oh yeah, Drew Barrymore's in this movie. She has like 3 lines in the whole thing. It's kind of, I don't know why. So the Riddler and Two-Face find out who Batman is because the Riddler's a smart guy, and they go and try to gank him, and they do, and they just beat the shit out of him basically, and they go in and destroy the Batcave and destroy the Batmobile and the Batcomputer, and Bruce is like, are there any suits left? And Alfred's like, only this experimental suit that we've never used before, and he's like, time to test it out. It's really great stuff. I think there's some bat ass, but I don't think there's any bad nipples in this. Anyways, the bad guys kidnap Nicole Kidman. So the climax of this movie is Batman and Robin going to stop Two-Face and the Riddler, who have kidnapped Nicole Kidman. And Robin immediately gets kidnapped, and then it's Batman, and he's there, and Jim Carrey's gone all God mode. And then he just like throws a batarang up into the sky, and everything just breaks, and he just wins, and Jim Carrey's head literally melts, and it's like, it's kind of crazy. Batman saves Nicole Kidman and Robin at the same time, but then Two-Face is there, and Batman just kills him. Batman just like throws coins at him, and he just like falls, and he falls to his death, and he dies. Like, Batman straight up kills him. Alright, then the movie just kind of ends, and they leave it open to a sequel, which was made, so there you go. I think that this movie worked for what it was trying to be. This was the only Batman movie I hadn't seen going into it, and I expected it to be a terrible movie, and I actually ended up having some fun with it. They were really trying to ditch the dark movies that they had just released 3 years prior and 6 years prior. Yeah, I like Jim Carrey's part, although he was just being like The Mask and Ace Ventura mixed together. Like halfway through, he just goes full Ace Ventura. Batman and Robin mostly work, even though he adopted him like at age 25. That happened. And the whole love triangle that I mentioned earlier was just, I didn't like that whole thing. I thought it was really messy and didn't make a lot of sense, but it happened, you know, whatever. There's a scene where Robin does ninja laundry. There was a scene where Two-Face and the Riddler play Battleship, but it's like real life Battleship. I thought that was kind of fun. They also tried to include a subplot where it was Batman mourning about his parents' death, and I thought that they really could have capitalized on Robin's parents' death because they just died like right in front of him in the movie. But no, they keep going back to how Batman's parents died like 30 years ago. But either way, I thought this movie was pretty fun, and I would suggest watching it if you just want to watch a whimsical, like crazy version of Batman from the 90s. It's basically just 90s Batman, but like the zany, cool side of the 90s, not like the dark, gritty side from earlier. Alright, let's get into some trivia. There were a few feuds on set, namely between Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. Apparently Jim Carrey walked up to him in a restaurant on set, and Tommy Lee Jones just told him that he hated him and he hated his movies. But, you know, whatever. There was also a feud between Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher, the director. Apparently Val Kilmer was threatening towards other employees and Joel Schumacher didn't like it. That's probably why he didn't come back for a second movie. He was softly fired. The budget for this movie was $100 million. It made $336 million, which is pretty good considering what marketing probably would have cost. It made a tidy budget, and then we got a sequel. It got 40% on Rotten Tomatoes critic rating and 32% users. So actually, people hated this. All right, the soundtrack to this movie is actually insane. So the song "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal, which won 3 Grammys, was a part of this movie's soundtrack rollout. Like the music video to "Kiss from a Rose" is basically a trailer for this movie. It's fucking crazy. You should go check it out. In total, the soundtrack included U2, Seal, Offspring, Method Man, Nick Cave, and the Flaming Lips, and it reached the Billboard Top 5 and went 2 times platinum, which, I mean, it's a Batman soundtrack, come on. I mentioned the script writers earlier in the video, Lee Batchelor and Janet Scott Batchelor. Their 2 writing credits on IMDb are this movie and the 2014 movie Pompeii. It's kind of weird. I don't know how they got this job, but it happened. Again, like most things in this movie, it happened. Well, that about wraps it up. I hope this gave you all you need to know about Batman Forever. This is my first video like this, and I would really appreciate any pointers or tips anyone might have for the future of my video making. I hope to make this like a weekly thing. I'm planning on making a Nicolas Cage review in the same style next week. I'll see you next time.